Well, thank you, Chamberlain. It's definitely one issue that a lot of Nigerians will see eye to eye on, and that is electricity, because it's not yet where we want it to be. And if we're going to develop, they say that we have to get electricity right. I'm being joined now by Dr. Kalu Idika Kalu, who is a former Minister of Finance. You're welcome to our studios here in Abuja. It's good to see you.
Thank you. It's nice to be here in your beautiful quarters.
Thank you. Now, just quickly then, what do you think what are the problems that currently bedevil this sector as we speak? Is finance one of them?
Well, finance certainly has to be one of them, but I'm particularly concerned for the pace of growth of that sector. You see, the jokes here, I mean, depending on what part of town you live in, it's almost like if you're lucky, you're in part of town where the power is on, whereas this shouldn't be the case. I mean, there is connected to a particular grid, so it should involve a proper structuring of the power plant and the further services that go from there. Now, what I really want to address in answering your question is who are managing these plants?
By the plants,
power.
Are you talking about the generating plants? Or
generating plants, distribution plants, and so on and so forth. I was very intimately involved with the whole privatization policy. Privatization, as has happened in so many parts of the world, has been a system that has been successful in helping the government to share those areas that it should not be involved in and pass those areas to the private sector where, for all the reasons we know, accountability, efficiency, hire and fire without any civil service kind of structure. So what you want to look at is power as a key sector of the economy. If you look at the structure of an economy, power is one of those sectors that is connected to just about every sector. So even if it's imported, it still has to be distributed in a way that it provides services to all the sectors, from agriculture to manufacturing to the utilities, other utilities, and so on. So there's a procedure, there's a vehicle for taking that sector to the highest efficient producers. And power should have been how we should have handled it. First, you are talking in terms of those who want to manage power cannot be people who are managing funds, who are waiting to get a loan to pay for what the government wants to get back. In order to now address those issues, it is still supposed to be staying with, particularly the soft sectors of education, health, whatever you have. So the people who should get the power must have the cash, the liquidity, and therefore, of course, they must meet the bid price in order to get it. But there are three other considerations that must be taken simultaneously in passing this project from the public sector to the private sector. The people must, the consortium or whoever it is, must understand the technology of the enterprise, whether it's communications or power or refineries, what have you. You have to understand the technology. Somebody in there must know what they are buying, what they are going to get into. And of course, that helps them in the technical due diligence, where they can inspect it, know what is there, value, they know the state of the arts, and therefore what may need to be changed. There's a third criterion that has to be considered. The people should be those who have managed the plan before. You can't bring somebody from, with all due respect, from general education or general merchandising and just give them a power plant to manage. So a power management experience is very, very crucial. And then the last, but also very important criterion must be the business plan they now present. That business plan must show why they want it, what they want to do with it, how they want to start it. So you don't have the case of where you pass this on to the private sector and the people are waiting, what's going on? You know, workers are rioting, and there are issues of pensions and outstanding salaries and all those things. Those all should be taken on board in the negotiation to transfer this thing from the public domain to the private domain. But over the years, I wrote the paper myself several years ago. At that time, I was in planning, Minister of Planning. By the time we got onto it, I was in transport. So the committee that was set up actually came to me, and I went over this thing. In my prior role as a staff of the World Bank, we did a lot of this in East Asia and Pacific, particularly Korea, Taiwan, and so on and so forth. So one was very clear as to the fact that this was a very important vehicle to move the economy to the global stage.
But from your assessment now, looking at the key indexes that you spelt out must be met by those who are going to take over as private owners.
Right.
Were those key indexes met?
Well, what?
The key indexes, the criteria, were they met?
Well, I was never practically involved in the processing of vetting the bidders. Usually you know, for power, of course, this is supposed to be a very important key area. So there will be several bidders. But I kept making inquiries, and there was overemphasis on who won the bid in terms of who was able to offer the bid price or who had the highest bid. And I always said, well, you don't just, of course, they would tell me, of course, you know, we've looked at all these other things. But there was primary emphasis on the price rather than all these other technical issues, which are the things that are bedeviling us to the point where we see talking about 2,000 megawatts, 3,000 megawatts, or even less than 1,000 megawatts. For an economy of our size, for the kind of growth, I think we are really structured to grow very fast over the last several years.
Okay, but I was asking...
So they did it.